Alright, here's my bandsaw. It's a 9-inch bandsaw, 1/3 horsepower. Craftsman. It's not great, to be honest with you. I got it from my grandpa. I inherited it from my grandpa, so I'm very appreciative for it. But it's just not the greatest tool, and it's actually kind of turned me off Craftsman, to be honest with you. There are a lot of Craftsman table saws for sale in my area on Craigslist, and I've just kind of steered clear of it. There's a hardware store that sells a lot of Craftsman stuff real close to me, and I'm just never happy with Craftsman tools when I see them up close. At least power tools, wrenches and stuff like that. How could you go wrong? But power tools, it just doesn't seem like it's the best quality. But anyway, I do have it. It's good to have. I have some blades for it. I have 3 different size blades for it. It just doesn't perform well. I tried adjusting all the adjustments, the little bearings and all that stuff, adjusting the tension and stuff, and it just doesn't perform well. It's got to be 40 or 30, I don't know, 30 years old. So what can you expect? 20 years old? I don't know. But it's nice to have. I'm just not in love with it. I don't use my bandsaw a ton, so I haven't had the reason to go out and get something of higher quality. So I'm just kind of left with it. But anyway, it's got a dust collection port in the back, which now that I have a shop vac, I hook up to that and that works well. It's wired into the wall, so I just turn it on, it's ready to go. It does have this light on the back, which makes things a little bit easier. But yeah, like I said, it serves its purpose. I'm not doing a ton of bandsaw stuff anyway. The next tool is my drill press, Ryobi. I bought this, and it's good, it's fine, it's okay. It's got some adjustable belts here to change the drilling speed, and it's got a light and a little crosshairs, which don't really work. I don't even use it. The one thing is the depth gauge is pretty crappy. Somebody built a depth gauge. It was probably John Heiss. I'll try to find a video for it. But he built a pretty good depth gauge, or at least a custom one. But the depth gauge is flimsy. It doesn't really work well, so I kind of have to do it. I have to just kind of see where I'm at and go down to where I know I need to be. But it's okay. The I don't know what you would call it. The table of the drill press is, I think cast iron or whatever. I put this MDF board on it, and then I usually use at least 1 or 2 pieces of plywood just as like a backer block, so that when I'm drilling through, I get clean holes. The table is adjustable up and down, and it works well. I'm not drilling trillions of holes, so it doesn't have to be crazy. It's kind of small. I would love to have one of those standing drill presses, big ones. Someday I hope I do, but this one serves me well for now. These drill bits right here, I just got these online a couple weeks ago. I have a set of Ryobi drill bits that aren't great. So I got these ones. These are Brad Point drill bits, so it's got that little point in the tip, which I think is a good thing to have. They only go down to 1/8 inch in size. So I do have those old Ryobi drill bits, and I have a couple other smaller ones, so I have enough drill bits. Those are good to have. I also have Forstner bits, which I built this little Forstner bit storage, whatever you want to call it, storage thing. Let me move all this. So this is a 4x4. If you know what this purple slash means, it means it's 70% off at Walmart, because it's a piece of crap wood. Piece of crap. It's a piece of crap. But it was perfect for what I needed. I wanted to build this. I drilled, I don't know, half inch holes. I put 2 for each size, and then I burnt the size. So this is a 1/4 inch all the way up to 2 inches. I left spots for drill bits, Forstner bits that probably don't exist. 1 3/4 and 1 7/8. But anyway, I used the Forstner bit of the size, whatever size Forstner bit this is. So This is an inch Forstner bit. It's got two spots because I have actually two 1-inch Forstner bits. So I got two spots where those are stored, and then I drilled the hole of the size of Forstner bit. So, and then I labeled it with a wood burning tool. So that's a 1-inch Forstner bit. Comes in handy because, for instance, the horse racing game that I was working on, one of my videos, go check it out. Actually, two videos. It was a two-parter. I had golf tees that I needed to figure out the right size hole. So if you imagine this is a golf tee, I would come through and stick the golf tee in there and just see what it is. Or if you have a bolt and you're not sure what size hole you need to drill into your work, you can take the bolt and start down here and it doesn't really fit, that's getting close, this one's too big, this one's probably good. You can use those holes to kind of gauge, you know, what the actual hole is going to be. So it's been pretty good. I also got these really cheap online, I guess you'd call them drums. These are sanding drums. Came with some extra drums, they're different sizes. So I got them all stored right here. I use the drill press as pretty much a drum sander. So I'll put this drum in to the drill press truck, and then I also I've only used this one, but I made this piece of wood. It's got a hole in it that the drum can sit in so that I can, you know, utilize different sections of the drum when I'm drilling. So I can lower the drum up and down through that hole and be, you know, sanding it nice and easily. So that's that. I think that's everything for my drill press table. Let's move along to the radial arm saw, and I'll bring you guys in a little closer for that. Alright guys, here is my radial arm saw. You've probably seen this on a lot of my videos. One of the reasons that I wanted to get a radial arm saw, well, first of all, I got this radial arm saw with the table saw. The guy was selling both, and he was selling them for really cheap. I wasn't really in the market for a radial arm saw. I needed a table saw, so I went to go check him out. Table saw looked awesome, and he said, all right, we'll take the radial arm saw too. So I said, all right, sweet. He also gave me the bench top grinder, but then I was actually, right around that time, I was watching all of Frank Howard's videos, which if you've seen his videos, then you know that he uses a radial arm saw all the time. He uses 4 different radial arm saws, or however many he has, and I thought it was pretty good. I thought it was pretty cool, and I thought that could be something that I could incorporate somewhere way down into the future when I had a dedicated space and all the room and everything. But lo and behold, this fell in my lap. So I've been super happy with it. This thing is awesome. Cross-cutting, it's super accurate. I put this aluminum strip on the back of the fence. It originally came with like an old, probably pine little fence that I replaced. I wanted to use plywood so that'd be a little bit more stable over time. And then in all of Frank's videos, he uses like, I believe it's aluminum, that's what I used. So I put an aluminum strip back here just for it to be a little bit more solid. And it's been awesome. I replaced the blade, which I'm sure you guys have noticed or seen. And I built this little bit of desk collection, which I'll talk about in a second. This little blade guard was catching on my aluminum, so I had to put a little block of wood there to allow it to come up and over. I set it up for perpendicular right at 90 degrees to the wood, so it's set perfectly. I don't want to adjust anything or mess around with anything. Frank's got a bunch of different radial arm saws for different purposes. He uses dados stacks in one of them, or maybe he switches it out. He uses it for you know, all different things. I don't really want to mess around with my setup. It's kind of finicky, and so I just leave it. I have that miter saw for miters and all that kind of stuff. I built a shelf on the bottom of it, and I really just took the entire thing apart. I got this right before I was moving, so I had to take it all apart, and it was good to do that because I kind of got a good sense of how this works. Like I have said in the past, I've used a radial arm saw very rarely. I think I used it in high school. It was either high school or middle school, but I'm by no means a radial arm saw expert. When you watch, I watch all the YouTube videos, and not a lot of people have radial arm saws. You kind of get the swing of things with a table saw. Even if you don't use it all the time, you at least see people using it, and you kind of get a good idea of how to use it. Radial arm saw for me wasn't the case. I didn't witness a lot of people using radial arm saws, so I was a little bit intimidated by it initially. But you know, taking it apart and knowing how everything's set up, how all the adjustments work, it was really a good learning experience. But I made sure that this table was nice and flat. I got the back all nice and flat also. I keep this little spring clamp with a block of wood to sometimes clamp to the fence to give myself, you know, little stop blocks for different lengths of cuts or whatever. And then the shelf underneath just kind of stores some random crap. I got a dado stack, which I haven't used yet, but I've actually never used a dado stack. I've seen a lot of people use it on table saw. I'm going to be using it for a table saw. Problem is I don't have a throat plate that'll work with a dado stack. I might have to build one, but anyway, that's another thing. Got some other stuff for the table saw underneath there, which I'll talk about when we get to the table saw. But as far as this goes, the other thing that I wanted to do when I was first using this is it sprays a lot of sawdust, as you can imagine, and there's really no way to contain it. It was spraying sawdust everywhere. All of this was just constantly covered in sawdust, so I figured I had to build something. So what I came up with was a little bit of a dust collection. Frank Howarth has some cool dust collections on his radial arm saws. This one is okay. It's obviously not substantial enough to collect all the dust. I would have to probably build an entire hood to do that. This port right here, maybe if I hooked a shop vac up to it, it would collect dust, but nothing comes out of here. So it's like not really doing anything, to be honest with you. So this does nothing, but all this sawdust gets shot back this way. The majority of it gets captured by this little 1/4-inch plywood box that I built, and then on the underneath of this table, I used another piece of 1/4-inch and just slid it into the structure, the steel structure of the table. And so there's a bottom to this section, and then I got like it's a plumbing fixture, probably for like a bathroom or something. And so it's got a flange that goes down to like a 2.5 incher, which this long black pipe here is actually made. This long black pipe here is actually made. It comes with the, or at least an accessory for my shop vac. So I know that my shop vac hose would fit on this end. So then on that end, I just came down from that flange or that, that plumbing fixture with a 90-degree elbow of the same PVC material, and then just taped them together with some duct tape, and it has worked well. And then I hung this pipe from the actual side of the steel table with this, I don't know what you call it, this little strapping. And it has worked decently well. It definitely controls the dust more than it did when before I had that set up, obviously. And I'm looking in there right now, and there's some dust piled up around the sides of the box. Everything else goes down that hole and gets sucked up. So it's been awesome. I recommend it if you have the space to fit one of these in your shop. Definitely do it. You can look around on Craigslist or whatever you got available to you as far as used machinery, and I would definitely investigate it. I don't know about buying one new. I don't really know what the prices run, but it's not an essential thing. You can get a miter saw that'll do a lot of the similar things, but if you can find a good deal on one, I would recommend doing that. The other thing is I put this on casters because if I have this pushed all the way back, which I would like to have it, full time, if I'm working on a long 2x4 or 2x6, whatever, all this stuff gets in the way. I usually have garbage cans right here which get in the way, so I normally have to pull this out, and sometimes it just stays here for a couple days because I don't have to be in this area all the time anyway. But radial arm saw is awesome. I definitely recommend it. So let's move on to the next section of the shop, which is going to be pretty much a table saw.